Okay, you guys, so I want to have a few minutes about Duolingo. And I'm going to just declare to you that I'm at 975 days. I've studied Spanish, Italian, some Japanese, and Mandarin on that app to different degrees. And I want to talk about the problem that's kind of inherent that I have seen with all my experience in these languages with Duolingo. Now, I want to also inform you that I've been studying languages my whole life. I was in the US military. In the military, they offer you language courses that you can take that will teach you a language very quickly. And there are methods for that, right? And from what I understand, the the methods and the software and the company that does that for the US military is still the preferred method of learning languages. And I'm blanking on what it's called, but I know there'll be people in the comments that'll tell me exactly what that is. I just haven't said that company's name out loud in over a decade. But they teach you the first 100 to 150 words and phrases that you would use every day in your common language, and then they take that and they give it to you, and then you go out into the population or wherever they station you at, and then you get good at it because you get some level of immersion. And without immersion, meaning that you're interacting with natural speakers on a regular basis, you're going to struggle. And the only time that there is a break between the struggle and the drop off and the struggle and continue are the people who are hobbyists like myself, or have a deep interest in language, or who are lifelong learners with language, right? And when I was in my early teens, I started studying Japanese and I got pretty decent at it. And then in the military, I studied Japanese. And when I took courses in Japanese, I realized like studying on your own as a hobbyist and taking a class are two very different things, right? Because there are metrics that are involved in a classroom, and most people have a hard time meeting the metrics because classroom languages are often built to be difficult. When you take an app, then it makes it easier for you to learn that language and get to a basic proficiency, so that when you get in the class, it's not so daunting. But the same problem still exists, and that's the immersion aspect. And that's why people say, oh, learning languages doesn't work unless you live in that country or you're speaking to people who speak that language every day. And there is a truth to that. But aside from all that, what I've seen with Duolingo is that there is a disconnect with what they teach and then what they want you to learn. And the lessons kind of go like this, right? They're very simple and very easy, and anybody can learn them. And you're like, wow, I'm making real progress. And it's not that you're getting ahead of yourself or overly confident. You are making progress. And there is a lot of really interesting and base material to learn that you could spend a long time on. Colors, numbers, basic greetings, and things like that. Duolingo doesn't really go too far into that. And I've always been perplexed by that, right? Especially when it comes down to basic greetings and sayings and how to order and how to talk to somebody else. Those are the tried and true methods of learning a language. And on an app like Memrise, Memrise, they really focus on that, and they give you videos of natural speakers. And I found that to be the most helpful. And apps like Duolingo don't do anything like that at all. Instead, they've like gamified the whole thing and made you stacking days more important than learning. And what happens with Duolingo is that the lessons go from very easy and they scale up to almost impossible. And it will happen at a point almost overnight. And you wonder, like, what have I been doing on this app that I can't get even a base proficiency when you get up here? And why is it that they do this thing? Right? Because your interest is the same, your commitment is the same, right? And your desire to learn is the same because you're showing up every day. And one of the things about language learners is, for example, you could be a hobbyist with a high degree of interest, right? Like take Japanese is a perfect example. There are a lot of people in America who love anime and love Japanese culture, and they grew up as kids and they grew up on this stuff and they watch it in Japanese, and so they think, great, I'll learn Japanese, I'm watching the show, I'll eventually pick it all up. And they often do. But when you get into like a lot of these apps, they want you to learn how to write it, they want you to learn how to read it, which is all well and good, but you will go from, like, there's three alphabets, the hiragana, the katakana, and the kanji. They will literally take you from hiragana all the way to like advanced kind of katakana level stuff like that, and it doesn't make any sense. It's not a graduated process or even a graduated process. And I think that Duolingo's music app or some music course that they have really synthesizes the problems that are inherent in Duolingo. For example, when you're learning how to play piano on Duolingo, which I can play piano and read sheet music, there's not a button to slow anything down. You can't slow down the flow of the sheet music going across the screen, which should be a really simple kind of thing to do and a simple feature, but they don't add it. And so you're having to plow through this stuff and make the mistakes, which is also fine. But those same issues on the music app are the same kind of inherent problems on the language learning apps. So I'm going to leave that there because we're at 6 minutes. And this is food for thought. And having a long conversation about Duolingo is probably a good idea. And having a long conversation about learning languages is probably a good idea. As someone who, I love speaking Italian. My Italian is usually, it goes up and down depending on what I've been doing. If I'm reading a lot of Italian or studying a lot of Italian, you'll hear it more out of me. I have a history in the 90s of about 6-7 years of where I spoke Italian on a regular basis outside of my own family even. And, I grew up studying French as a kid in England. It was required for everybody, 6 years of French. And then, probably 15 years of Japanese and maybe 2 years of Mandarin. So, these are the conversations. Duolingo and Memrise are a part of it. Okay? Food for thought.